So we've got Russell with us, and we've just seen 2 of his films in a selection of 4. Talk to us a little bit about each film and what made you do both of them.
So I did a feature-length comedy with my writer collaborator Chuck Price back in 2012, and it got distributed in like 9 territories, and it did really well. And I hadn't worked with him in a while, and we really wanted to like do something. And it was kind of wrapping up to COVID, so we had to wait a couple more years, because we decided like 2 years ago we're going to do something cool. And I got all this cool equipment over lockdown, and I wanted to use it, and pretty much we just wanted to do something zany and try out the equipment. So we got my black magic and went to Arizona, and that's why we did the zany rabbits thing. That's kind of the origin of it. And come with me, I found a really cool location in downtown LA. It was like kind of a loft, and it had this weird bath there, and I was like, I think we can do something with that. So I rented it for 4 hours, and we were in and out in about 3. So nice. But like I was gonna like put it on sticks or like do like a bit of like slider shots, and I was like, you know what, handheld, we just gotta get it done. So yeah, it was really cool, and it was really pretty out there too. Yeah. Like because especially out on the balcony, like the lights of LA and everything. It was really So and now we're my friends collaborators like working on our feature, so that should be done and dusted soon to like shoot. So yeah.
So when did you think, oh, I know, Killer Rabbits? What led to that?
Well, Killer Rabbits. so we had
Killer Rabbit glove puppets. I mean, let's just emphasize this a little bit more.
Puppeteering, yeah. So it started off as just like we wanted to do something more like probably like a slasher or something, or a revenge flick, and we just didn't have enough time, and we still wanted to do something. So he was like, how about like little chipmunks or squirrels? And then we Amazoned it. We found these like beautiful white rabbits, and we're like, yeah, let's make them nasty. So.
That's really cool. And I said to you last night, I really liked the contrasting visuals. So you go to shaky handheld cam whenever the rabbits turn up, and then you've got these beautiful visuals, panoramas and whatever, a lot of focus on that RV as it's going through the woodland, it just talk to us a bit about cinematography.
Well, I used DaVinci Resolve for color correction, so I wanted everything to be like kind of warm and poppy. But when we were out there, we actually rented like an RV spot for the day, and you can kind of put your RV in. It's a national park in Cottonwood, Arizona, and we called it Cotton Hill because there's like little fluffy things running around. So yeah, like the cinematography, we definitely wanted to go handheld and POV and do some like crazy POV stuff. I think I could have pushed it a lot further. So maybe in future things, it was kind of cool to like kind of break the ice with this, but definitely for like the traveling stuff, we wanted everything to be kind of like nice and smooth, and then kind of jumbled and crazy with the rabbits. Yeah.
Cool. You've got a nice mix of northern and I'm slipping into American here. Tell us a little bit about your transition from the UK to the United States.
Yeah, so I did all my college and everything up north in England, where I was born, and I moved 16, 17 years ago now to Huntington Beach, and then transitioned like kind of up towards LA, and now I'm in the valley above LA, and I get called Australian, New Zealand, South African, all sorts all the time. So yeah, it's just a jumbled mix. It's just very lazy speech at this point.
you need to start telling everyone you're like the Highlander and you come from lots of different places. Let's see if we've got some questions out there. Have we got any hands about killer rabbits? because I'd like to know what our audience thought of this.
Well, now that you told us you bought them on Amazon and you kind of preempted the question, but I was wondering if there was maybe some trauma in your childhood related to rabbits.
I did actually. My uncle, my mom said to my uncle was like not that much older than me. He was like a young uncle, and he was like, "I'm gonna get Russell something really special for Christmas." And I was like about 5. This isn't like going to like a really bad trauma thing, but he pretty much like gave me this like little cage thing, and it was wrapped up, and I opened it up, and my mom was like, "You got him a rabbit." But it was an outdoor rabbit, and it ended up biting my mom's ankles so much, he ended up being a wild rabbit, and we let him go. So I still miss him.
The thing I like, so we actually, Russell submitted multiple films to us, and we picked 2. And not because, we had preference over them necessarily, it's just, time frames. But one thing we noticed about all your films is you're very in and out with your filmmaking style. There's a lot of filmmakers, especially when they're making sort of kind of like low budget or, like films where there's a time constraint, they still manage to do this thing where they like over labor a story. How important do you think it is to just sort of like get in and out with your... To fund my feature a few years ago, we like ran out of money very quickly, like most people do. And Dish Network, my friend was working for them, and he said, I can probably, I think they need commercials. I think we could do these commercials. So I was like, we did these 30-second spots. We did like 20 of them in like 3 or 4 months, and got paid a lot of money for them. But like that really like distills the story. We had to really chop down. I actually did a 25-second short about a guy that orders food. This was like a lockdown kind of thing. He orders food on his app, and then he gets a knock on the door, and he's like, "Oh yes, I'm fucking eating it." And then suddenly he gets a thing saying, "Hey, your food's ready." Then he realizes he's been poisoned, and he just like starts coughing up blood everywhere and stuff. So that was in 20 seconds. That was like knock at the door, eat, and all that. So I think it's really cool to like do that with a story, but I think the payoff for something like the feature we just saw was really, really cool to see, because I do like a slow burn and you don't really know what's coming, and then it's more of a payoff for like when the monster comes. That frightened me. I haven't been frightened like that. That entity, the first shot of it, I was like, whoa. So I think, Peter, you said something along the lines of like I think you wrote in your comments, it was like the end was like really horrible, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So Peter and I, we both were really struck with your can't get my words out, visuals on Come With Me. And for me, the figure in the doorway, I immediately got like Prince of Darkness vibes. Was there any thought about was there any inspiration for your doorway scene? Because, as I said, that's the thing that really sticks with me about the film.
You mean the backlit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like something that I got an Aperture, an Aperture 300X LED light. So I was just like, I want to take it to this bit, and we rigged it, and we just blasted that thing as hard as we could. And I bought this fogger, and I was trying to like get some fog going, and it just sucked. And I paid like $50 to rent the thing. So I just ditched it, and I used haze in a can, and it just hazed everything and just made this kind of atmospheric. But yeah, it's probably from all those like Freddy Krueger movies when he like shows up and it's all backlit. I just thought, I want to try that out and like see, test. So pretty much during COVID, all my shorts, I've just been testing stuff. So just to see if it works.
Do you mind telling us what your budget was on both?
Come With Me, I was in there for 4 hours. It cost a couple $100, and that was it. Oh, and the fogger.
Yeah.
But I think he discounted it when I said it didn't really work. So I think, yeah, $200. And then the, what's that, like 170 pounds? And then Hell on Cotton Hill, that was like a $50 RV pass. and then $200 worth of little monsters, and then $50 worth of like pints of blood. I should have done gallons of blood. I should have had like somebody with a bucket actually in the shot just chucking blood everywhere. But that's maybe like a feature-length version. It's just really zany. But yeah, it was very inexpensive.
You had a question, didn't you, Peter?
I was going to, just on that subject actually, have you got any plans to do a feature? Because I would love to see an hour and a half of Killer Bunnies.
I'm not sure. I think the Killer Bunnies, we just wanted to get it out there and like get it out of our system. But yeah, there is going to be a feature that we're going to do after summer. We're going to get a. I told my writer collaborator, one location. They always like come back like, but these 6 locations, dude. I'm like, no, one location. It's probably going to be a really cool Airbnb north of LA to like, so it's not like, that expensive. Get permission from the owner, obviously, to like bring equipment in and stuff. And probably 3 or 4 actors, and we'll probably go non-union. We'll pay them, but you know, I don't want to like try and get like semi-names and just blow money. You know, as long as the actors are decent. Unfortunately, during COVID, I've been making myself an actor, and I don't really like seeing myself as an actor. So yeah, it's going to be cool, like working with more people as well, especially since COVID has kind of ramped down, and you know, it's more accessible and safer.
If money wasn't an object, you know, if money wasn't an issue at all, what sort of film would you really like to make?
Oh man, I think I would get really. I mean, I've got a bunch of special effects packages, and I sprinkle them into like YouTube stuff. But I think I would do something really just off the wall and insane, like, you know, a guy's walking down and like just everything just crumbles away, and then he's suddenly in the forest and all this crazy like bats and stuff. Like I would just go really wild. Cool. Yeah, it would be all like crazy stuff that I could never do. Yeah.
Wild is always good. You said that you're working on a feature. How much about the feature can you tell us that you're?
Pretty much, I just gave parameters to my guy. That's that one, and then I do have a cabin that my friend lives at, and that's a written feature, and that's pretty much a two-hander. I'm sick of casting, you know, scraggly-looking white dudes like myself, so I thought it'd be really interesting to have 2 female leads, and one of them is very like a dominant person, and then the other one's kind of meek, but you know, not playing meek. She's invited to a party at this barn place, and then suddenly there's no escape. There's just curtains around the barn, and there's no exit, and she's just stuck there. And then people come from within the curtains, and like all this weird stuff happens, and then she ends up being like tortured and persecuted, but not in like a torture porn way, like in a really just overbearing, insane way. But it's going to be kind of campy too, so it's going to be really wild.
Tell us 5 of your favorite films.
Oh wow. Probably like a lot of David Fincher, like Fight Club, 7. I've got to put Goonies in there. Probably Gremlins. Yeah, just all over the place. What else? First movie I ever watched was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, that's got to be in there.
Cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, those very first films, they always have such strong influence on you. I always refer to one of the very first modern films I ever saw was The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, and that film has stuck with me my entire life, and like year in, year out, I must watch that film at some point.
I'll have to check it out.
Great. Jodie Foster is a serial killer. What more do you want?
Oh, amazing.
Any other questions out there?
I was just wondering about the location on the hill on Cotton Hill. Was it a conscious decision to go for something very bright and open and kind of not kind of too sinister, like a dark wood, for example? Yeah,
well, I really like Critters and Gremlins, but that was really influenced a lot, like the kind of style and the vibe of getting like inanimate objects or creatures getting revenge on humans, because the humans are really like going into their space and they're just being assholes, and they kind of deserve it. But yeah, as far as like, you know, going in the lighting stuff, like that's what you got to do. But the Blackmagic 4K, I decided against the 6K because I think it's just overkill. But I got my 4K and I was like, got some filters to get a bit of a bloom and stuff. And I was like, I really want a really vibrant, warm look. So, yeah, like being outdoors, like out there, it just really picked up. Like I was surprised because it kind of shoots flat and they've got to color correct it, but it looked really vibrant and nice. And I just wanted to get everything outdoors, like no indoor shots. I think the only indoor shots were just the pickups of me and the guy talking in the RV and then from home, but you know, which looked kind of drab compared to everything else. But yeah, and that part of Arizona is just super amazing anyway. My parents live in Sedona, so we stayed there. My friend came up with his like crappy old RV, and then we went over to Cottonwood, which is about 15 miles away, and it was a super cool day. We did a day of scouting, checked everything out, and we were like, okay, kind of around here, around this looks nice, and did some pictures, and then came back the next day. But I was gonna shoot anamorphic, which has the bars on it, and it's squeezed, which would look really, really awesome. That's what I used for Come With Me. I did some test shots the first day when I was location with anamorphic, and then my collaborator was like, can we punch in though? Like, can we do zoom ins on these rabbits and just get really crazy in post? And I'm like, well, it's the anamorphic though, dude. And I'm like, whatever, I won't use anamorphic lens, I'll just normal, so I can HD resolution 4K, you can really punch in and like reframe your shots in post, which was like super handy, you know. Does that kind of help? Like, yeah, that's the question.
Thank you very much, Russell. If you can give him one last round of applause.
Thanks so much, guys.